Hi there, welcome. I will be your recruiting officer today. So it's my understanding that you were looking to join our crew for our ship. Is that right? Excellent. All right. Now, if I can get your full legal name and how do you spell the last part? Yeah. Excellent. And let's see. What made you decide you wanted to join our crew? Mm-hmm. Just looking for any job available. Yeah, understandable. Now, have you worked with? Have you worked on a ship before? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, no real prior experience. Have you had any, on hands-on training or education in any specific field that would assist in training? Combat training also counts, not just the educational, not just college experience, but combat training is also considered useful. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Okay, and how well do you work, like in a team? Mm-hmm. Did you say that you perform well? You work well with others, or do you kind of do your own thing? Okay. Um, if left alone and you needed to work on your own, would you be able to accomplish the task without somebody like telling you what to do? Can you self-govern fairly well? Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And can you give me an example of a time when you've been at a job or school or something and you've had to keep up your own kind of self-discipline to make sure you got things done on a specific schedule or deadline? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, so, when you're working on a crew for a starship, are you're working with other people, but a lot of times, whatever role you're assigned, you're going to be doing that mostly yourself, and you're going to be expected to figure it out if something goes wrong. Um, so there are. Have you completed any like survival training or EVA training, anything like that? EVA, of course, being extravehicular activity. So, uh, like zero G stuff being outside the starship and whatnot. Okay. Yeah. Would you be willing to, um, if hired, would you be willing to go through a survival training week and a basic program for learning how to do ship repairs and stuff? Okay. Yeah, emergency repairs. The kind of thing that if the ship gets a hole and it starts venting atmosphere, you can repair it, or your spacesuit, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's usually pretty simple. There's usually sealant and stuff, but you might need to know how to stop an electrical fire. Um, we also prefer if you have at least a little bit of medical training. So basically, what we would want to do, if you were to be hired, is send you through a 3-week course where you learn some survival training, which includes emergency repairs, um, some medical training, and combat training. It's kind of like a boot camp for military, but it's not nearly as intense. It's designed just as a basic thing for, um, yeah. hmm During this, you would also learn some astral navigation techniques. So it's kind of just like a spacer's crash course. Um, yeah, and you haven't already taken that, right? No. Okay. Yeah, we will. Yeah, if we hire you, we'll pay for the course. Make sure you get it. So, how likely would you be to stay for an extended period of time aboard ship, do you think? Yeah. So what we do is we do contracts. So our minimum contract is about 2 years. Um, because we don't want to, invest a bunch of time into training you, and then also, or a bunch of time and money, into training you and making sure you've got everything, and then just have you leave immediately. Right. So, excellent. So the contract, as far as what that entails, is basically it's a 2 year contract. You stay for the duration. Um, you can buy out your contract early, so I believe that's usually about a 10,000 credit. Um, so you'd have to basically pay us 10,000 credits to leave early if you wanted to. But we do have an initial sign-on bonus, so there's a hiring bonus. We give you some credits. Make sure you can get all your gear. Um, do you have your own space suit and all that stuff? You got your own equipment? Okay, well, that's good. So the other thing that we do is, as far as the hiring process goes, and like how much you get paid, that kind of depends on our jobs. We are running a freelance Starship where we take all kinds of odd jobs and stuff. So, yeah. Basically, what happens is each crew member gets a share of the um, gets a share of the credits. So a portion of the credits goes specifically to the ship and repairs and whatever else is needed, and anything after that is considered profit. Um, and then that gets divided amongst everybody. The captain gets 2 shares because it is his ship. It is his. He's kind of putting in the most risk, so he gets the most. Okay. Is that acceptable to you? It's pretty standard. Some other ships, the captain gets 3 or 4 shares. So we're on the better end. I have heard of ships where the captain only takes a single share, but it's really rare. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, minimum 2 year contract. Now, provided you're a good fit, you can of course be added. Like, how do we put this? If you're a good fit, we're usually more than happy to continue to let you stay on after those 2 years. There will be a 90-day trial period. So just to make sure you're a good fit for the crew before we offer you the actual contract. Okay. Right. So, yeah, you're with us for, 3 months, and provided you can make it for those 3 months and pull your weight and work well with the rest of the crew and all that stuff, then you're good to go. Yeah. Yes, of course, you will be paid for any jobs just as you would be if it was a full-time thing. Mm-hmm. Do you work well with other races? Because we do have a couple Thraxians on board. We've got a Zargax who works here also. You don't have any problems with that? Okay. Now, um, again, if recruited, would you be willing to submit to a full body and brain scan for any illegal narcotics and alien parasites? Mm-hmm. Alien parasite. We check for alien parasites, diseases, and illegal narcotics. Right. We don't really have a problem with you drinking as long as you're not drinking on the job. Um, Obviously, no smoking inside a spaceship. That causes problems. The air filtration only handles so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully you don't have a smoking habit. Um, let's see, anything else? So you would be willing? Yeah. Yeah, we do have a zero tolerance policy on hiring beings being controlled by brain slugs. So if you are one of those, sorry, um, we don't really allow uh, parasite races to. We don't allow sentience being controlled by parasites on board. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the risk is just it's a little too high for the rest of the crew. What happens if it turns out you are? So if you break any of these rules, you'll be placed in the brig for the duration of the rest of the trip, and that kind of goes for any insubordination, really. So if you are breaking the rules, basically not obeying the captain, because when you're on a spaceship, the captain's word is law, because there's not really other laws to enforce. So if you're not following what he's telling you to do, it's basically breaking the law, and so you get thrown in the brig. Um, Depending on what you do, mutiny is punishable by death, and that's standard across all spaceships. So if you try to do a mutiny and take the captain's ship, and end up trying to kill any of the crew, you'll get spaced. We'll just right out the airlock, and that goes for anybody else on the crew too. So these rules are for everybody's protection. Obviously, yes, we do have a first officer, and so if the captain is compromised by, say, an alien parasite brain slug, the first officer takes over. The captain stays in the brig until we can get him some help. So yeah, for the most part, brig is the first resort, and then you just get dropped off at the next habitable world. Additionally, you if you're in the brig for like during a operation that we're doing, any of our missions, your pay will be docked. So you won't get your share for that mission because you're in the brig and you're not doing anything to help. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all pretty standard. I know it sounds kind of scary, but I mean, literally, as long as you just don't actively cause problems on board the ship, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Okay. Now, can you? I know these questions during interviews always suck, but can you think of a time when you've had a moment of adversity that happened and you overcame it? And if so, could you describe that for me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can take a minute. Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent. Okay, yeah. So as far as other benefits for working on our ship, you do get shore leave pretty much anytime we make port. So That's generally reserved for settled systems, though occasionally if we're on a spaceport, you'll get some free time still, usually. So for the most part, we do try to we take at least one day off every week. Sometimes it's on a rotating schedule, so you may not have the same time off as other crew members, so you might be a little bit by yourself for that. Um, but we do, of course, have we've got gaming. You can set up gaming consoles. We have board games, card games. There's plenty of stuff to keep yourself entertained. The ship is gonna kind of act like your home. Again, part of the overhead for that gets taken out for the ship goes to things like food and restocking fuel fuel, restocking food supplies, stuff like that. Making sure we have enough water. So there's plenty of food. We also usually keep some other beverages. You are more than welcome to pick up your own at port and just label them, put them in the fridge. No one is allowed to eat anybody else's. Always check for labels if you're not sure. We have we've got a separate storage area for personal food and stuff like that. So you don't really have to worry. If you go to the main one, you know that nobody's personal food is in there, so you don't have to actually think about what you're doing. You don't need to examine every piece of food every time you go get something to eat. We do have a cook as well, and he serves food in the mess hall at regular intervals. So you don't actually have to cook for the most part. Although, again, you can. You can get. We've got a microwave. We've got an air fryer. You can just throw some stuff in if you've got it. We've got a rehydrator if you've got dehydrated food. That prepares food pretty quick. Anything else? Paid leave. You Yes, you do get paid leave, as well as insurance. So the insurance policy is through the Interstellar Insurance. They've got we've got pretty good. You can sign up for life insurance. You can, of course, have some deducted out of your shares automatically. Have some of your credits deducted out of your shares automatically if you want to improve your insurance. But yeah, we've got life insurance, health insurance, all that stuff, and we do have an onboard infirmary and a physician that is part of the crew. So you really shouldn't have to worry about any medical issues while you're on board. They'll take care of everything. It won't cost you anything. It's just part of being on board the crew. So basically, yeah, the ship, by just being part of the crew on the ship, you have room, board, health, medical covered, pretty much anything you would need, and of course entertainment. Shifts are done in 8 hours. There is no overtime unless there's an emergency. We do have a computer that actually makes sure everybody is getting the appropriate amount of time. You will need to keep track of when you're kind of working and on the clock, but as soon as your shift's over, yeah, you're always free to go. As long as we do need to make sure that people are arriving on time, because again, when your shift's over, the other person needs to leave, right? When your shift's over, you need to leave, and so whoever you're replacing needs to have you there and ready to go. We do have a couple extra personnel on hand. to take over anybody's shift in case they need it, because sometimes people get sick or injured and they can't always perform their duties, and that's understandable. It's part of life. So yeah. So initially, for the position you'd be recruited for, you'd basically just be keeping the place clean, mopping the floors, wiping down surfaces. We really want to make sure that the ship stays very sanitary. That's pretty much it. You'd basically be a space janitor. Does that interest you? Mm-hmm. So how much do people? How much are the shares usually? So typically, each mission usually runs us, depending on what it is. So we do several different mission types. Sometimes we transport people, sometimes we transport cargo, and occasionally, these are the higher risky, or like higher risk ones, higher reward. We have pirate hunting. We do occasionally engage in some bounty hunting. You're not part of the combat stuff, so you shouldn't need to do any boarding party stuff. Obviously, you can apply for advanced training courses or anything like that if you want to be a part of that. But obviously, in case of boarding action where we actually have to board an enemy ship and some of our crew has to go fight, they actually get they get a share and a half, because they are taking more of the risks. But generally, we can take over ships and actually sell them, and that gets larger amounts of money. And of course, anything in their cargo hold we can sell. So those are worth a lot more money. But generally, anywhere from, as far as what your share would be, anywhere from like 10 to 40,000 credits, and those missions are about usually 1 to 2 weeks. So you might get about 5,000 credits a week, or it could be 40,000 credits in a single week. It really varies, but generally, pays pretty good, especially since you have very few overhead expenses, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So is that sound high? Yeah, no, it's good pay. It's good pay. Honestly, after a couple of years of that, you can usually, it's not unusual for some of our crew to go purchase their own ship with money they've saved up, or after 5 to 10 years, a lot of people actually retire. So it's riskier than a lot of jobs, but at the same time, you don't have to work on it as long. Of course, that might be because you don't survive, but we haven't actually had a crew death in. They happen very rarely. I will say the reason we're recruiting is because that did happen, but that was the first one in over a year. And again, we do bounty hunting, so that's actually pretty surprising. We have a very solid crew. Mm-hmm. Well, we've actually got 2 positions open. The one we're hiring you for, the person retired out of it. He was our previous janitor, and the other one was a combat specialist. So if you had like a lot of combat experience, we would have looked at recruiting you for that one, which again usually pays more money, and it has hurt when you're actually in the combat stuff, but also usually has a lot more downtime because most of the time you don't need to be doing combat. Yeah, the combat specialist, you want to know? So for that position, you'd kind of be acting as a guard for the most part on board. So if anybody's misbehaving, you're the security force. You take them to the brig, you make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do. Kind of, yeah. It's like space police, but on board the ship. You can kind of think of the ship as its own little town and laws and stuff, or with its own laws and stuff. So, okay. So janitor position though, yeah, that's the one we're looking at offering you. Um, I think you'd actually be a great fit. Um, so we will be back in port in about a month. In the meantime, we're going to need you to take that training course. So you should have 3 weeks for the training course and about a week to get anything else prepared that you need before um, joining, closing out any rental agreements or anything like that. Um, if you're able to start immediately, does that work for you? Excellent, excellent. So put that in. Um, oh yeah, I forgot to ask. I missed that up there. How old are you? All right. And do you have any medical conditions that we need to be aware of for our onboard physician, or anything that might actually prevent you from being um, like a fully functioning member of the crew? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, the position would be janitor and other duties as needed. Um, Simply because you never know what's going to happen on board a ship. Okay. All right. Excellent. It's been a pleasure meeting you. We will send you the information on what to do and where to go for the training course, and we will come back provided you pass the training course and the scanning screening test. Um, oh yeah, and we will also be running a background check to make sure you don't have any outstanding bounties or warrants after your arrest. Um, so provided you pass all that, we will happily welcome you on board in about a month when we come back. Sound good? All right. Excellent. You have a great day, and you've got our contact information. So, if you have any more questions, do let us know. We are more than happy to help. All right. Take care now. Bye.